Recently in the news, we've been hearing there's an army of cybervillains symbiotically living in the digital ether, wanting to do us and our companies we work for extreme harm. Some of the threats are easy to detect, while others have become increasingly more sophisticated. Some threats involve millions of botnets acting in concert with one another, and sometimes they work alone. If you've ever been a victim of a phishing scam online, or if you've ever had someone hijack your profile to gain access to critical information or to steal money from you, then you know the recovery process is painful. So how do you go about reasonably protecting yourself from these threats and cyber criminals? Unfortunately, there is no foolproof method. As protective technology evolves, so do the online threats. While there are numerous threats that exist at every turn on the internet, there are 7 very significant threats that pose a real and imminent danger. Understanding what these threats are and learning how to combat them is integral to conducting any semblance of normal business or personal activity. Not only is it important to institute a good set of habits when it comes to dealing with online threats, but it's also important to stay in the know. The more informed you are, the better off you will be. So let's review the top 7 threats and what you can do to stay relatively safe. One of the biggest ongoing concerns and threats to our digital existence has been the proliferation and the rise of ransomware. You know, the type of malware that locks you out of your computer with an impending countdown that signals the digital death of your digital existence. As it counts down, threatening to encrypt every last shred of your data, you realize that digital criminals can inflict harm on anyone at any time. Your choices? First, never pay the criminals because you don't know the outcome of whether your information will in fact be restored. After all, once they have your money, what reason do they have to continue the conversation and risk being caught? The answer? Redundant backups. Backup to an external drive somewhere on your network and to the cloud. Then most importantly, test the backup to assure you can recover what you have saved. Many backup solutions never verify the data is actually there in a format that you can easily use. A large majority of people get caught up in phishing schemes. Phishing schemes are engineered to get you to click on things that seem harmless. However, as harmless as it may seem, phishing schemes can lead to a number of major online security breaches. By paying close attention to your surfing habits, you will be better able to mitigate these type of attacks. Because once you're ensnared in this type of scheme, it's hard to untangle yourself. There are phishing schemes for your bank accounts, email accounts, big e-tailers, and other service providers that have massive footprints. The goal? To gain access to your information and to do the most damage. If you think you were a victim of phishing scheme and you entered in a username and password somewhere online and things didn't seem right, immediately change all of your password. Even better, never use the same password for different accounts, such as Gmail, Facebook, or online banking. Always use different passwords and ensure that they are not simple. I know this sounds tough, but perhaps now is the time to consider using a password manager program. One of the most sophisticated threats that exist online today are called man-in-the-middle attacks. Everything seems normal to the user all the way to the point of entering your account information. Previously embedded malware sits on your computer and waits until you entered in all your credentials. Then it swaps out the destination server with a hacker server, and that receives your information. Throughout the process, everything seems fine. Nothing seems amiss. That's why it's such a sophisticated online threat. You don't realize what is happening when it is actually happening. You must be very wary of what you download to your computer. Virus protection software is not going to help you here because these threats are always evolving. Man-in-the-middle attacks are usually a result of phishing schemes that installed latent software on your computer that sits dormant, typically 145 days, until you begin accessing the proper targeted network or until this piece of software has recorded the right keystrokes. The malware then substitutes its own intercepted server, right when you submit your credentials to log in. Social engineering isn't a new threat. In fact, criminals have been using social engineering hacks in person for ages now. However, when it comes to fraud and other crimes occurring online, this threat is certainly on the rise. With the layer of anonymity that the internet affords, it's no wonder that social engineering works so well. Most users aren't that careful with whom they are interacting or what type of information they are exposing online. It is not inherently difficult for a criminal to search the web to find information about a person in an effort to social engineer a scam against them. They can discover their occupation on LinkedIn, their family members or children on Facebook, and where they are through Instagram and what they're talking about on Twitter. They can then work to infiltrate those profiles and take over a person's entire social media presence, and use that control to take over email accounts and eventually bank accounts online. So once again, it's important to be very careful with whom you interact and what information you expose to the general public. Utilize the privacy features on platforms like Facebook or Twitter, and be sure to check your privacy settings often. Every time the terms and conditions change on a social media application, they, in many cases, reset your settings to public. Another major online threat involves directly targeting employees to compromise your corporate networks. Since some employees act as the gatekeepers into their corporate network, there's no surprise that this is on the rise. For example, a large part of wire fraud that occurs happens because cyber criminals successfully target the right employees to compromise the company's corporate network. Most companies have no idea what threats exist to their employees or their networks, and it really is one of the most revolutionary attacks that exists today. Either way you cut it, employee education is a must to ensure any potential attacks are thwarted before they begin. One massive online threat that exists, which can also help put your physical safety into peril, is the tracking of movements through social media. For consumers, this is an enormous risk. When cyber criminals know that you are not home, it's simple for them to break into your home, and you don't need to be wealthy to be targeted. Criminals will target all types of individuals through social media channels. If you go on vacation, be careful of what information you're sharing, and once again, assure your profile on all social media is set to private. The gatekeepers to any company are the customer service representatives. They are the employees who interface with your clients daily. However, many are unaware of the online threats that most cyber criminals pose. Cyber criminals are known to replicate corporate profiles and post invitations throughout social media to draw attention to unassuming individuals. They do this to gain access to accounts. When a customer is calling for service, they are not aware they are speaking with a customer service imposter. Therefore, consumers will offer any information requested by the imposter in hopes of getting their situation resolved. Once this has occurred, it's too late. The customer's account has been compromised. If you are a business and you're serious about your company's online security, it's important to invest in a platform to help you mitigate such attacks. As a consumer, you need to be very careful of what information you offer. If the customer service representative is legitimate, they should have most information they need on hand. We at CQ hope this information is helpful in keeping you safe. We look forward to speaking with you soon about cybersecurity.